What will happen in Berlin in 2 days?
They have something called the Lichtgrenze, which is basically a wall of balloons, white balloons. There's some 8,000 of these balloons. They trace about a 15-kilometer stretch of the old line, and then sometime after sundown, they will be released into the sky, and that's really the big moment here. I hope we have some video up of it. It's going to be pretty remarkable.
The Brandenburg Gate is behind you. What portion of the Berlin Wall still stands?
Less than 400 meters. I mean, you know, depends what you classify the wall. Was it just the part that divided East Berlin from West Berlin, or is it the part that divided Berlin itself, the backside of West Berlin from the municipality of the state of Brandenburg?
Right, and we've got
very, very little. It's just for tourists.
And Brendan Greeley with us, who spent some serious time in Germany. I mean, you lived there.
I've lived there several times and reported from there. And Hans, you know, how big of a cultural force now, 25 years later, is what they call nostalgia, the nostalgia for the former East?
You come across it. I mean, look, in Berlin, a lot of the sort of east-west divide isn't so much an east-west divide. It's a north-south divide, and it's old Berliners who are upset about Schwabians and Bavarians who are not only coming to Berlin with all their money, but also their work ethic that's deemed to be just a little bit more industrious.
Yeah, but
Berlin's a party city, right? It's always been a party city.
Well, it's a party city, but I want to bring up a photo that I remember seared to my childhood memory, and this is when the dialogue changed, folks. That is Peter Fechter's body. He was a teenager. This is a grim photo of a grim August 1962, and this photograph changed the debate on communism. Sir Martin Sorrell with us from WPP. And Sir Martin, you went through Checkpoint Charlie.
I went through Checkpoint Charlie about 1963.
A year after that photo.
So actually, sorry, no, not 60, 65.
Could you feel the tension at that time?
Absolutely, absolutely. We went into Prague. We went to Prague. It took us 12 hours to get to Prague. The train journey was meant to be 6 hours. It was double. Obviously couldn't speak any Czech at all or even read it. So it was it's the first time in my life I couldn't read the language. It's a question of understanding, reading it. But Checkpoint Charlie and East Berlin was extremely grim at that particular point in time. And it's an amazing change from where we were.
It is.
And I think this, you know, one of the things that's hard to remember is how much confusion there was at the time in 1989, you know, the 25th anniversary, that they, you know, it was almost an accident that the wall was opened. You know, I had a friend who ran through that night, and he said he wasn't sure whether he was supposed to be allowed through or not. And he got his nose broken by a guard on the way through, and he thought, I better just keep running. We don't know how long the wall's going to be open.
Hans, to take a broader view here, Henry Kissinger at the Council on Foreign Relations a few days ago, in remembrance of this with leading academics of the world, including your Germany, what is the tone of Angela Merkel as she goes to Sunday? She grew up in that East Germany, didn't she?
She grew up in the night Angela Merkel, the wall came down. It was finally opened on Bornholmer Strasse, just about a kilometer from her then apartment. You know what she did? She went to the sauna. After the sauna, what'd she do? She had a beer. She didn't quite know that it was real, and it wasn't until the next day that she had class, she had her lab, her physics lab to tend to. The next day, she crossed over, went to the shopping districts in the West Berlin, saw the opulence, saw the excess. So Merkel has a very personal relationship with this. One other thing on this is that Merkel, and this kind of gets back into the tech debate that we talk about a lot in the NSA eavesdropping, Merkel lived in the former East, which means that the Stasi was a real presence and personal privacy is very much prized by her. That drives her today as she thinks and makes decisions on tech and national security issues. I like the way you bring in the emotion of Merkel, who grew up in East Germany. Of course, this will be the 25th anniversary. You've got an entire generation of kids who were not there when the Berlin Wall came down. What is the emotion of the millennials? Well, a lot of the millennials from the East don't really understand, you know, the significance of it. For the generation that, say, in their 40s and 50s, those on the East may have been left behind just a little bit. I mean, you look at the number of board members from the West and the East, it really doesn't compare. I mean, board members that grew up in the East, so these would be men and women in their 50s, 60s, just a handful on Germany's top companies. Right. Even when you look at the big companies throughout Europe, throughout Germany, a handful are in the Old East. Most of those are utilities. You do have some big auto plants. You got BMW and Porsche in Leipzig, which is in the east,
Well,
but there's a huge economic difference still.
Hans Nichols, thank you so much from Berlin.